In the time of the Buddha, it was common for people to sacrifice animals, sometimes to sacrifice human beings in order to appease the gods that they worshipped. The animal would be killed, its body would be laid on an altar, it would be burned, and the concept would be that as it burned, the smoke would rise up to the heavens, and the smell would be pleasing to whatever deity the individual worshipped. Now, this is a problem for Buddhists because killing, we are taught, carries with it terrible karma. It is one of the worst things you can do to another living being, and once you harm another living being, of course, you harm yourself. And this results in terrible rebirths in hell realms, hungry ghost realms, animal realms, etc. So, one of the first rules that Buddha passed when he founded the Buddhist Sangha was no animal sacrifice, no human sacrifice, which I think we can all agree is a good thing. However, his followers still needed a way to practice devotion as part of their Buddhist training. The reason for this being that when we practice devotion, when we give something of ourselves to others, whether it's our time, our money, etc., we build a relationship with them and we break down the illusion of a separate self. We learn to see ourselves in others. We gain compassion for others. And through our compassion, along with Buddhist wisdom, we are better able to realize enlightenment. So, how do we practice devotion in Buddhism? One of the simplest ways is by burning incense. In the time of the Buddha, sandalwood was considered a very prized, very precious wood. So burning it emitted a very sweet-smelling smoke. The idea that this smoke would rise up as an offering to all sentient beings. That relationship would be built, and the practitioner who burned the sandalwood would move further along the path towards enlightenment. In modern day, we reenact this practice by burning incense on our altar. So you've ever wondered, why do we burn incense in Buddhist temples? That's why. It's an act of devotion, which breaks down the illusion of a separate self, benefiting ourselves and others. That said, however, there is a deeper lesson here as well, because when we burn incense, or when we do any Buddhist training for that matter, whether it's bowing, whether it's seated meditation, whether it's studying sutras, sometimes it can appear as if the practice doesn't work. We're doing all the right things, and yet the world seems to be a very troubled, very terrible place. We might wonder, what's the point of doing the practice? Is it doing any good? Are we truly benefiting ourselves or other people? And if we look at what happens when we burn incense, then we understand the answer is yes. Because when we burn incense on our altar, that smoke rises up and then it spreads. It goes throughout the meditation hall. It goes throughout the temple, or if we're doing this in our residence, it goes throughout our home. The sweet smell of our practice is not something we keep for ourselves. When we burn incense, we are sharing our practice with the world. Everyone gets to share the sweet smelling aroma. Now, this is literally true when we talk about burning incense, but it is figuratively and metaphorically true when it comes to all of our Buddhist training. Each time we meditate, each time we bow, each time we study the sutras, we are burning the incense of our spiritual practice. And that smoke goes out into the surrounding area, the world in which we live. Sometimes we can see directly the impact of our actions. Sometimes we cannot. In the same way that sometimes we can smell the incense in the other room, and sometimes we have a family member who might say, I knew you were sitting because I smelled the incense. I saw the smoke drifting through the house. Each time we practice the Dharma, the smoke of our spiritual practice drifts through the world and changes it for the better. Sometimes in ways we can see, sometimes in ways we cannot. But just like the practitioners of old in the time of Buddha 2,600 years ago, who burned incense and had faith that the ritual was improving the world in some way, both for themselves and others, we too must have faith that our spiritual practice, our spiritual actions, no matter how small, whether it's burning incense on the altar, sitting on the cushion, smiling and waving at a neighbor, has some sort of impact that moves not just us, but all sentient beings one step closer to enlightenment. Amitabha.